Good evening, everybody. Thank you for coming. Tonight we are going to talk about something a little bit different. We're going to start from the beginnings of European cultural tradition, as I am planning to do another series of talks which will be devoted to Greek philosophy. But obviously it's always the best thing to start from the very beginning, and to start talking about Greek philosophy without mentioning Greek mythology would be a big mistake, and you will see why tonight. So we will be looking at Greek mythology in particular, because it's obviously our European inheritance, although this is not the first mythology that has appeared globally. There are older mythologies, but our focus will be on Greek mythology. Now the thing is, when we talk mythology, why do we need to know mythology? Why do we need to study mythology? Do we really have anything to benefit out of it? Are we acquainted with mythology in our everyday lives? And actually we are. Many words in many occasions that we are using on a daily basis are coming from Greek mythology. For example, you have most of us wearing trainers Nike, right? And Nike is a goddess, is a Greek goddess of victory. Then you have Hermes, famous company, again, another Greek god. Then Amazon. Amazon comes from obviously Amazonians, from Homer's myth of Odyssey. Then you have Pandora, jewelry. Some people know about Pandora and Pandora's box. We're going to be talking about it in a minute. Then you have Athens, from Athena, Olympic Games. Everybody knows about Olympic Games. So there is a lot of these Greek mythological words in our everyday life, but people are not really aware of that. For example, Kronos. Kronos is another Greek god, but we have chronology because it's related to time. We have synchronicity, everything related to Kronos. These are the etymology of words that we're using without actually paying attention to their origin. Then you have Atlas, the giant who's been punished by Zeus to carry the world on his back. And words like Atlantic, for example, then obviously Atlantic Ocean, then Atlantida, which is another lost city. This all comes from these gods, Greek names of the Greek gods. So again, why mythology? Myths, they don't explain anything exactly as science does. They are not offering any concrete, scientific, rational explanation. So why they're so important for us? So we definitely live in the world which is scientific, as Nietzsche would say. We heirs of Socrates. We pay attention only to the rational. Everything that is epistemically warranted, epistemically approved, this is what we even consider to be real, to be important. But without mythology, you will see we are running the risk of becoming rational fundamentalists. We are running the risk of seeing the world really as a black and white world in numbers. In one of the Greek myths about Prometheus, you will see that Zeus has given consciousness to humans. That's the gift from gods, to be conscious like gods. So consciousness is a gift, and we have taken it, we, especially people of modern times, as most important side. But there is another side of human being, and this side is subconscious. The subconscious contains something else, contains passions, contains instincts, high emotions, what Nietzsche would call drives. And if one lives the life which is purely rational, then there is a huge potential for a problem which can even generate all kind of psychological problems, and it can take a person into schizophrenic darkness. So mythical beginnings always start with imagination. So why is imagination so important? Imagination is extremely important, for example, in the first stages of developing the personality, especially in the childhood, but not necessarily only in childhood. Without imagination, we wouldn't have arts, we wouldn't have philosophy, we wouldn't even have science. Because without imagination, according to Einstein, for whom imagination is even more important than knowledge, scientists would never dare to go further. You know, if you always gravitate into the realm of known, you will always know what you know, but you will never know more than that. So in order to make a leap into that unknown, you have to have an imagination. You have to turn into something which is a bit riskier, a bit more passionate, not to mention arts, not to mention philosophy. So without mythology, Nietzsche considered mythology extremely important, and he saw it as absolutely essential for developing a healthy culture of a nation. And I'm going to quote Nietzsche now, just to bring you how the importance, the seriousness of mythology in his understanding. He says, "But without myth, every culture loses the healthy natural power of its creativity. Only a horizon defined by myths completes and unifies a whole cultural movement. Myth alone saves all the powers of the imagination and of the Apollonian dream from their aimless wandering. The images of the myth have to be unnoticed, omnipresent demonic guardians under whose care the young souls grow to maturity and whose signs help the man to interpret his life and struggles. Even the state knows no more powerful unwritten laws than the mythical foundation guarantees a connection with religion and its growth from mythical notions." Opposite to mythological culture, Nietzsche sees abstract man, and he says, by way of comparison, let us now picture the abstract man untortured by myth, abstract education, abstract morality, abstract law, the abstract state. So he's literally hitting this more our world now than his world in the end of 19th century. We have drifted this way, clearly. And what happens, he says, when somebody loses that foundation of mythological creativity and power, one is lost and nations are lost. So they have to wander, they have to dig into the past. They need to look at other mythologies and other nations, to start to collect from wherever they can, because they're losing that strength and power of mythological foundation, because they never had it. If you're purely rational, you're going to be, as I mentioned, rational fundamentalist. So as you realize, I'm calling this religion Greek mythology, but in reality it's not Greek mythology, because when it originated, it originated in Minoan culture, which is the oldest culture on European continent. Minoan culture that flourished between 3000 and 1500 BC. After that, their influence spread to Mycenaean culture, which is a bit younger, and flourished between 1800 to 1050 BC. So those periods, in those two very powerful and old people who didn't call themselves Greeks, These are the origins of this mythology. Greeks didn't call themselves Greeks, they called themselves Hellenes. And they were not one state, there were many states. They used to have policies. Polis would be a mega city, like Athens, like Sparta, like Thebes, like Thessaly. And these policies were first time united under the Philip of Macedon in 338, who conquered them and united them. This is the father of Alexander the Great, who took over him in 336. And he didn't unite anything, he just put down the uprisings in areas such as Athens, Thessaly, and Thebes, before he turned east and conquered Persia in 334. So, just to give the justice to Minoan and Mycenaean cultures and origins of this mythology, which started there. Another very important issue when it comes to, again, Greek mythology, is that Greeks did not see gods as different than themselves. As Nietzsche says again, the Greeks did not see Homeric gods as set above them as masters, or themselves as beneath the gods as servants, as the Jews did. They saw it as it were only the reflection of the most successful exemplar of their own caste, that is to say, an ideal, not an antithesis to their own nature. They felt interrelated with them. There exists a mutual interest, a kind of symmetry. Man thinks of himself as noble when he bestows upon himself such gods. So, as you will see in a minute, gods did mix with people, and Greeks created them in a way to justify all good and bad traits of humanity. Not only good, but also bad. So everything was justified in Homeric gods, or as known as Apollonian gods or Olympian gods. They lived in, they're called the Decatheon, 12 gods in the realm of gods. Pantheon. And those gods were actually justification, personalization of everything that we are proud of, and also everything that we are not proud of. Because Greeks were very realistic. They didn't hide things. They wanted to show themselves and justify our nature, whatever it is. And you will see, I will just start talking about it now, that incest, for example, was allowed between gods. Brothers married sisters. Homosexuality as well. Everything that was known and that is still known in our lives, in humanity, like generational gaps, hatred within the family, fight between sons and fathers, love between mothers and sons. Everything was eternalized in their mythology. This is something that I always found fascinating. And I'm just going to go into that in a second. So I said imagination is extremely important in creating a personality, in creating from a young person, a young man, and then later on justifying many other character traits, ethical norms. So these characters, these gods, and also literary characters, which are imaginary, which are not real, have actually helped not just create personalities, but in many occasions they have helped extreme political or military decisions. They're not only making people decide things, but they're prompting people to action, which were of historical significance. For example, the conquest of Constantinople in 1453 by Mehmed II, the most important thing for Mehmed at that time to conquer the capital of the world, capital of Roman Empire, Constantinople, that 34 armies before him, even his father, they could not conquer. This was impossible to conquer Constantinople. And even his officers were advising him to give up the siege, because siege lasted over 2 months. But he was so much influenced by hadith of Muhammad, which says that Constantinople will be conquered by a Muslim leader. And that hadith was such a psychological boost for Muhammad II that he believed in his victory, and he was almost 100% certain that this is going to happen. This made him bring decision which was rejected by all his generals, but had to be accepted. And he finally conquered Constantinople. So imagine if he didn't have that psychological backing, that injection of confidence, which is of mythical dimension. And there are countless number of examples like that in history. Then you have imaginative characters throughout the literacy that have influenced millions and millions of people over the centuries. Characters like Faust, Hamlet, Raskolnikov, Antoine Roquentin by Sartre, Men from the Underground by Dostoevsky, Joseph K. by Kafka. Most people who are reading philosophy, they remember these characters. And these characters influence many individuals on a daily basis to bring decisions, to look at them as signposts, to look at them as support, as extremely powerful explanation of human character traits and moral decisions, moral qualities. So we see that if something is not epistemically warranted, all these characters, they never existed, they are pure imagination. But you see how powerful they are and how much they can influence people. So as I started, I said God, Zeus, gave us consciousness to organize ourselves into societies, to program our lives on collective level, but also we have something called subconscious. And if we don't find a fine balance between these two, then we end up being really mythically deficient. So what are the important themes that actually Greek myths cover? So I can't go into everything, into detail, because Greek mythology is huge. There are some main stories that I want to talk about tonight, but I will just stick to the most important ones, and how are they presented in some subjects, that how they're presented in Greek mythology, and why they're so important for us. How can we benefit from that? So one of the stories is, for example, the beautiful myth of Eros and Psyche, which actually discusses, this is my view obviously, discusses the problem of love. So when Psyche was abducted by Eros, who is god of love, she was taken to his castle in Mount Olympus, and she had everything in that castle. She had servants, she had gold, she had diamonds, she had food, wine, the best clothes, but she couldn't see Eros. Then he came that night, the first night. She could have touched him, she could have smelled him, but she couldn't see him. And he said to her, look, we are going to have an amazing relationship, but you must not see me. Because if you see me, everything will go. So she enjoyed the first night with him. They made love. She was very happy in the morning. That kept happening every day, but she never saw his face. She just felt mesmerized. She felt amazing. She enjoyed every moment, but she couldn't see his face. One day he asked her, okay, how do you feel about everything? Are you happy? She says, I'm very happy, but I'm a little bit sad. So why are you sad? Because she said, I would like to see my sisters. She had 2 sisters. And Eros said, no problem. He called his servant, who was actually the wind, called Zephyrus, to take her back down to earth to her sisters. Now again, we have the jealousy between sisters, which is very common. Most of us know that. And once taken down to her sisters, they were mesmerized to see that she brought them gold and diamonds and beautiful clothes and everything. But then they said, so who is that person who is with you? And she said, well, he is amazing. His skin is like silk. He has beautiful body, and we are really, really happy, 2 of us together. But sisters, being jealous, said, well, this is very, very strange, because that person is probably some kind of a beast. And you know, beasts, they turn themselves into beautiful men, and they can deceive you easily. So he says, what you need to do, you need to see him and stab him in the middle of the night. No, she said, I'm not going to do that. But they said, look, you must see his face. If you don't see, you think he is beautiful, he is handsome, but actually he is a beast, and he is deceiving you all the time. So finally they persuaded her to do that. Once back with Eros, but she doesn't know that her lover is Eros. Once back, she does exactly that. She waits after they made love, they go to sleep, Eros turned on his side, but that night she took the light and she wanted to see his face. She came close, but unfortunately a drop of a candle of an oil came on him, and he woke up, turned around. She finally realized this is Eros, god of love. So obviously she couldn't kill him. But Eros said, oh, you must not have seen me. This was your biggest mistake. Eros disappeared. The castle went down into a ruin, and all the jewels and gold and diamonds, everything turned out in rocks and stones. So she went back to her sisters. She punished them later on, but this is not important. So what is important is, what is the message of this myth? So the message, as I see it, is that you cannot talk about love. You cannot see what love is. There is something that you have to feel. There is not something to be discussed, talked about. As she is trying to talk to her sisters, she wants to see who is Eros. And everything, once mind gets involved in love, everything disappears. Once love turns into a friendship, things change. And the castle of dreams ends up in ruin. And everything that was glitzy of gold and diamonds turns out that is worth nothing. So this is the message, for example, in this beautiful myth of Eros and Psyche. Now there is another also very powerful message in myth of Prometheus, and this is about women and about their unsatisfied curiosity, but also about delusion and fear of atheism. So what is happening with in the myth of Prometheus? Prometheus and his brother Epimetheus. They were titans who fought on the side of Zeus. Well, all other titans, including Atlas, fought on the side of Kronos during the famous 10 years old war between gods known as Titanomachy. So these 2 titans fought on the side of Zeus. So Zeus was very close to Prometheus. And one day Zeus was bored he looked at Prometheus and said, look, everything is fine with this earth. Everything is as it should be, but I'm just a little bit bored. We need something more dynamic here. So Prometheus says, so what do you want? He said, well, I would like to create some creatures there that they're going to look like us. They're not going to be us, obviously, but they're going to look like us. So he said, how are we going to do this? So he says, Prometheus, you are going to create them from clay. So once you create them, then bring them to me, and I'll breathe life into them. So Prometheus created clay figures, us humans, and once they have been created, Zeus gave them life and also gave them consciousness. So this is how we became. But Prometheus, being Prometheus, he loved his new creatures, men, too much, and he wanted to help them. He wanted to help them by giving them fire, because with fire they will be able to cast iron, they will be able to protect themselves, to heat, to warm themselves. So life would be easier for all of them. But that was forbidden. Zeus wouldn't allow any fire to men. Prometheus, however, did it, stole the fire, but Zeus saw everything, and he gave them the fire as well. So Zeus wasn't happy about that, because for him that fire wasn't any fire. That was the fire from Pantheon. That was a very special fire, God's fire. This wasn't only the fire that we know as something that can burn, because otherwise Prometheus would teach them how to, create fire by hitting two stones together. But this fire also gave them knowledge. Zeus didn't like that, because he feared that knowledge will create atheism. So people will know enough and stop believing in God. So Zeus was ready for revenge. Now, how did he revenge against us? So that only in the Greek myth you can find something so amazing as this story. So what he does, he creates a woman. The first woman is called Pandora, because men before that, men as a gender, as a species, were only males. So the first woman was Pandora, and he gave Pandora to Epimetheus, which was Prometheus' brother. She was so beautiful that when Epimetheus saw her, he just couldn't resist. Now Zeus gave her a special jar and says, look, this jar is nothing special inside, but one thing is very important, that you never open this jar. And you have to promise me that you will never do that. So when a woman gives you a promise, what is going to happen? This is the message. Right? So Pandora lives happily with Epimetheus. She hides that jar under the bed. And a few times she got tempted to open it, because why would I keep it closed? Oh no, Zeus said, and I promised, I'm not going to do it. And again, a few times happened like this. One day she couldn't resist. She opened the jar. So what happened? The swarm of little bugs-like creatures flew out of the jar and went in the air. Them being actually all the evils that humanity knows. Evils like death, illness, killing, jealousy, envy, disease. All these evils went out of the jar, and nobody could have controlled them anymore. This is why we have them now. But at the last moment she closed the jar, and only one evil left inside, and that was hope. Hope. So what is the message now? Why hope? So Nietzsche in Human All Too Human talks about that particular myth, and his view is very important, very interesting. It's basically that now that box is everybody's house. Everybody has that box in the house, metaphorically. So we can use that hope whenever we need. whenever we need. We can't control anything else. All the other evils, they are out. But this thing we can control, and we think that this is the best thing for us. That hope is something that we cannot live without. Monotheistic religions, they propound hope. They promote hope, something very important. You need to hope for the future, better future. But what Nietzsche says, man they don't realize that actually that is nothing good with that hope. Hope is the worst evil. Why? Because Zeus left it to us to use whenever we want it, in order to make our life longer, so we can suffer longer in illness, in old age, in murders, in diseases, etc., etc. Otherwise, Nietzsche says, the man will get rid of his life very quickly. But having hope, thinking that something very good, actually he continues to suffer for longer. That was the punishment of Zeus. You see how profound the punishment goes. So another very interesting subject is sons and mothers. So in the second order of Greek gods, when Gaia, Mother Earth, suffered from immense pain because all the children which Uranus had created, they were inside her. Uranus didn't allow them to come outside of the Earth. Uranus was the sky and Gaia was the Earth. Now every time Uranus pressured on her, he penetrated her, and she got many children, but those children, they couldn't come outside, so they were all inside. And she was in tremendous pain because she had to get them out, but she couldn't. Now obviously one of her sons, Kronos, this is the bondage between sons and mothers in Greek mythology. Kronos gets the sickle from Gaia, and she says to him, next time when Uranus penetrates, you have to cut his genitals. And then he will jump off me, and that is, in that moment, you can all come out. And this is exactly what happened. So Kronos basically mutilated his father because of the love to his mother. And this is how the first set of titans came out of Gaia, 12 of them. So you see what the son would do for his mother. So that love, that passion, that commitment, devotion. Again, Greeks try to magnify that in their mythology, try to show us how powerful those things are in the world of gods. Basically, if gods do that, we can do it. Then again, there is a lot of things that, for example, incest. Incest was very common between gods. Kronos and his sister Rhea, they produced 6 children. This was his sister. Then famous Zeus and his sister again, Hera, had again children. And then you have many other, Oceanus and Thetis, Hyperion and Thea, other titans. They were all brothers and sisters. So Greeks wanted to show that this is something that is happening on Earth. This is who we are. So you're not going to hide this. You're going to make gods as well do that. So just or not, this is another question, but this is how they saw it. They didn't like to hide anything. For them, this is life. They have to embrace it, whatever it is. Very different. There is another one, which is very interesting myth on about Dionysus. As I said in the beginning, apart from that consciousness that Zeus gave us, we also have something which is subconscious. We have instincts and passions and high emotions and other different drives which have nothing to do with mind and reason. But if they are not vented, if they are not satisfied, they can cause a lot of problems, especially psychological, also physiological. So as it goes with Zeus and Semele, another human woman, had a child. Semele was actually pregnant, but Hera, Zeus's legitimate wife, wasn't happy with that, so she tried always to stop those new children of Zeus being born. So she deceives Semele, and she says to her, look, you must not believe that that man is Zeus. You must ask him to prove that, because he is a trickster and he's not Zeus, as he's saying. So she turned, Hera turned into an old woman and persuaded Semele to demand from Zeus to show her that he is really God. Zeus says, look, he was just presenting himself as a beautiful man, but he said, I can't do that to you, because you cannot see me. If you see me, you're gonna die. No, she insisted, you have to show me, you have to prove that you're good, that you're God. And he couldn't bear anymore, so he did it. And when he showed himself as a God, she literally exploded of the light and of the heat of God's presence in front of her. But she was pregnant, and the only thing that Zeus could have done is to take the fetus, and he cut his thigh, and he put the fetus in his thigh. He saw the thigh, and that fetus was actually, when he grew older, and when Zeus took him out, this is how Dionysus was born. This is why it says twice born. Now Dionysus becomes god of wine, but also god of passion, god of orgies, sexual frenzy, intoxication. So Greeks created a god for our subconscious. It's justified. There is nothing wrong about it. It must not be subdued. It must not, that subconscious, be killed and completely diminished by the reason. So they turned him into a god. Dionysus is that god of our subconscious, actually. So whatever happens in that part of our existence is also justified in the god Dionysus. Now, because he was the god of wine, Zeus liked his product very much, because instead of mixing ambrosia with juice, he mixed it with wine, and it worked much better as a drink of eternity. So he invited him to come to Didecateon, which is the place in Olympus when 12 gods live, because Hestia, another one from 12 gods, decided to step down, so Dionysus was introduced as one of those famous 12 Olympian gods. So, and then also homosexuality, it was also justified in the life of gods. Zeus has a lover, Ganymede, Apollo, with the Macedonian prince Hyacinthus. Dionysus actually had a lover as well, a young boy, which is called Empelos, and in Greek, Empelos also stands for plant wine. So Empelos was killed by accident, and when Dionysus saw him mutilated, he couldn't do anything to revive him, so he just grabbed him, squeezed him, and turned him into a plant, which is wine. And out of his blood, actually, the drops of blood came down, and this is the story of wine. And you see how interesting later religions are when they come and they repeat themselves, like wine is the blood of Jesus. But actually that was originally blood of Ampelos. So nothing new on the horizon. In Quran, Allah made a man of clay, but actually 5,000 years before that, actually Prometheus made men from clay. So again, nothing new on the Western front. So there are another few stories which are also very, very interesting, and this is about punishments. So gods punish as well certain behaviors. Like, for example, I've just picked up few. I mean, it's endless, this. So you need to enjoy it and read it slowly, because there's so many different stories. Self-pity, for example, and asking for immortality. So Zeus didn't like self-pity. Self-pitying is not something that God would approve. Greeks didn't like it, actually. This is why they put it into gods of gods, to hate self-pity. So in the story of Melissa, which is actually a bee, during the wedding of Zeus and Hera, many people, semi-gods as well, demigods, people, cooks, chefs from all around the world were invited to produce the most delicious meal. And they all came from different places and offered Zeus and Hera different meals, hoping that their meal is going to win that day. But there was also a little bee called Melissa. This is Diabetes mellitus sweet. She provided Zeus with a little jar of honey. And Zeus tried that honey and said to Hera, "Oh, this is amazing. This is something that nobody could have come close to. This has to win." So whoever wins that competition has right to choose whatever he wants, she wants. And Zeus would fulfill that desire. Now Melissa came and Zeus said, "Look, this is your dish, your product is the best. So you won. Tell me, what do you want? What do you want me to give you?" And then she started complaining about her life. She said, "Look, for this little amount, it took me 2 weeks to work all day to collect this honey. And I work very, very hard. I fly countless hours. Every time I pick up just a little bit, and I'm really suffering just to do your little pleasures, which you're going to eat in two little spoons." And she said, "But I have loads of enemies, a lot of other insects and animals who come and take this honey, this product from me, and I can't defend myself because I don't have any weapon." So she said, "First of all, I want some weapon. If you can give me some weapon so I can defend myself, and also I want to be immortal." Zeus looked at her and they said, "Look, I will fulfill your desire, but not everything you ask. First of all, because you're self-pitying yourself, I will give you the weapon that you will have. But because you're asking for immortality, that weapon, every time you use, you're going to die. So every time the bee uses the sting, all his inner organs come out and she dies." So we know now why is that in Greek mythology. So basically the message is, do not ask for immortality and don't give me your self-pity, because I don't like it. Right? Also Sisyphus, another myth, he wanted immortality. And after escaping Thanatos, which is death in Greek mythology, 3 times he tricked even Athena. There are other occasions. 3 times he managed to cheat death. And finally, Hermes, the messenger god, came to him and said, "Look, you're trying very hard to defeat Thanatos, to defeat death. So we respect that. But now I'm going to offer you 2 options. One, because you have to die. So, one, if you die, we will send you to Elysian fields, which is heaven. And this is where the most grateful and the best mortals go after that. But he says, if you want to remain immortal in this world, there is another test for you." And he said, "What test is that?" He said, "Look, you see that hill over there and that rock? If you can put this rock on the top of the hill, Thanatos will never visit you again, so you will be immortal." So now, obviously, Sisyphus looks at the rock. He was very strong, and he thinks, "That's not a problem. I'm gonna do that. I can do that." But the problem is that he asked for immortality. So Hermes wouldn't allow him anyway. So the story is that Sisyphus tried to push the rock to the top of the hill, but few feet away from the top, the rock will come down. So Sisyphus kept trying every single time, thinking that he is going to make it next time. And he's been trying that for 5,000 years, and he's still trying, and it never happened. So this is his punishment for asking for immortality. And I spoke about myth of Sisyphus when we were talking about Albert Camus. And you see, Camus was also very impressed with the myth, but obviously he saw something else. There are many other stories as well. But I think I was talking a lot, so I'm going to give you the floor now and welcome your questions. Thank you.